go. Full screen. I just want full screen. There we go. I'm going to just quickly reload the live. See if I can see myself. Hopefully I can. Ah! Forgot my charger. Hang on, people. Hang on, world. Hold your horses. Don't get too excited. But I've got to get the world's biggest charger out. Oh. Well, my Wi-Fi just cut out. I hope that's not a computer-wide issue. Fingers crossed. I think we're okay. There we go. Awesome. Oh, advert to my own live stream. Let's not do that. I don't want that. I just want to see the comments. Do you have any videos on how to read different time signatures? I have done some. I have done... See if I can have it so I can read the messages. Yes, in short. Yes, I've done at least one short video talking about reading different time signatures. I don't actually know where it is. It will be in shorts and probably, if anywhere, it will be in the kind of bite-sized lessons playlist, depending on what platform you're on. But there definitely is one at the very least, because I remember editing it. Bear with. Excuse me. Just got to deal with the chaotic cable management that we've got going on over here. Right. There's like 3 cables currently just going across, all of which are health and safety hazards. But you know what? Let's just mix it up and cable this way. So no matter what direction I go in, the chances of falling over are much higher. Okay. Scorby! Oh my god, hello, how is it going? You're stuck at work? No! No! What's your job, Scorb? I've forgotten what you said it was. But first of all, thank you so much for being here. E.T. Mation, good initials. Nice one. Hi. Hi to you too. How is it going, people? What's the best technique for making a drum roll? It depends what kind of drum roll you want to do. If you want to do proper drum rolls, which is single stroke, then you've got to get better with your finger technique and using all that good stuff. I've done many videos talking about single strokes and all that good stuff. But the cheaty option is buzz rolls, so press rolls. Also, can you just give me a heads up if you can hear me clearly enough, and if you can hear the drum kit clearly enough? I'm going to turn the ambience down. Do I want to? I'm screen recording right now, so you guys are just going to have to see a bit of the behind the scenes. Bear with me for one moment, because I want to be able to hear my own drum kit. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Do, shigga-digga-doo, there we go. Yep, don't judge the fact that I haven't bought Reaper in the however many years I've been using it. And we're back. Okay. No one panic. We're back. I shouldn't have to, in theory, go off that screen anymore. Right, sorry, I'll get back to the comments. I feel like my left hand is considerably weaker than my right hand. Most people do. In fact, I'd say probably all people do. Sorry for the squeak. And what I'd say is the first thing to do is check out my free ebook, The Equalizer. First of all, it should be in the link tree or in the description. I don't even know where it is at this point, but it is findable. Or you can do Left Hand Bootcamp, which is just a video kind of course to help you through The Equalizer. But basically it's a whole bunch of exercises where you're doing 8th notes on the right cymbal and then 16th notes in this left hand. That's the very, very Cliff Notes version. And all that's trying to do and help you engage and build the muscles with is engaging the fingers. I do it in the right hand to emphasize. Instead of wrist, we want fingers. It just takes a bit more kind of mental capacity to really force your fingers to engage in the left hand because you're just not used to that micro movement, essentially. what's my drum history? How long have I been playing? Andrew, I have been playing since I was about, well, I had lessons since I was about 9, but I think I had a kit quite young. I think probably had a snare drum at about 7, I want to say, probably. Do you currently play in or have played in bands? Yes, I've played in so many bands. But the ones I'm currently in are Alona Mayu, and good luck spelling it. If Bex is in the comments and you know how to spell it, please spell it in all caps for everybody. But also a newer band that I joined in the last nearly a year now, called Bryony Dunn and The Forest. Very exciting stuff coming up with her. It's more kind of indie, how would you even describe it? Folk, not rock, but kind of rock. So hard to put things into kind of categories like that. But there's that, and then hopefully this year I've got a tour with Ariel, the guitarist I went on tour with last year, and she's amazing, really cool lady, American lady who lives kind of here and in the UK. So yeah, that's kind of the main 3, and then a couple function bands too. Close the tap. Oh. Yes, good to see you too in real time, Scooby. Hopefully you haven't had to head off, but how long have you played? Hear you fine? Good. Hi from Darwin, Australia. Hard to hear your voice. Hang on. For some reason with my interface, it's like the whole dial up to about 95% is like tiny minuscule difference, and then the last little makes all the difference. I try not to have it too high because if I start yelling then it's going to distort. But anyway, got people from Perth, Phil from Wales. Haven't bought a program at all. I don't judge. I haven't bought any program at all. Yeah, don't have to. Morgan, hi to you too. Work calls have to go. Yep. Have a great day, Scorbs. I'll see you at some point in the Discord, which I will hopefully be on a bit more. I keep meaning to, and it's great that there's so many people on the Discord. Also, if you aren't on the Discord, then please check out the Discord if you want a bit more of a drumming community-based thing. I want to build it to be as big as possible so people can kind of help each other out. No question for you. No question for you. Just wanted to say you're a great teacher and I appreciate your lessons. Cheers. Thank you so much, Kisa. Which do you prefer? Kisa sounds more accurate. But yes, thank you so much. I have an issue when I change from playing a beat to a single stroke roll. Each hand is in a different position. One is an American grip while the other is in German, and I don't know. Ooh. Okay. Is it the... Oh, hang on, I need to sneeze. This is the content you're here for. We're back. Okay, so I'm guessing it's the American grip is on the hi-hat, so you got thumb on top, and then the other one. That's just a case of, I think, probably brute forcing yourself out of it practice-wise. That's just going to take a bit of time to get your muscle memory out of, potentially. That's my very short, abridged version of an answer on that. Also, thank you so much to Kathleen for the super chat / donation. Thank you so much. And greetings from Germany from, I am going to get this wrong, I'm dreadful with names, Niemanson. Thank you very much for the donation. If you want to put in how you actually pronounce that name in the chat, feel free. Inspirited, when playing inverted doubles, should I play it right, left, left, right, right? Oh, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. Or right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. So, inverted doubles, I choose a leading hand unless I choose to alternate. So usually if I'm doing right leading, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right. So I stay sticking with the right. And if I'm doing left, then it's the other way. Left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left. I only really mix them up if I'm doing grooves and stuff. That kind of shebang. Hello again from Darwin, Australia. Yeah, voice sounds better. This is good. Okay, I have been playing drums for many years and I still have, but I still learn many things from your videos. Great stuff, and thank you. Thank you! Vincenzo. That's a cool looking name. Do you have any favourite groove? Lexiphy. You're asking a meme of a question. Do I have a favourite groove in 15/16? The answer is there isn't a favourite groove. It would just be to be able to play it correctly would be the achievement, quite frankly. Etimation. The issue is more I play left hand in German. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure, again, that German grip is kind of that halfway house between American and French. No, wait, hang on. Which one's thumbs on top? Either way, German's the middle one. And I use mostly German grip. Because I find that having the hand on top, having this little gap in here means that the stick can travel where it needs to. Right? I find that with thumb on top, this is limited. The height is limited, so you can't get as much kind of height that you need to get the power out of it. So I struggle with that. And I just have never done hand properly on top, really. The only time it really varies is over on the ride cymbal. Because if you're doing consistent stuff where you don't really need to have like really whack it loads and loads, then you can just do thumb on top. And it is good if your hands get tired and you want to vary it a bit, because if you're doing this all the time, you can just swap over to something else and just kind of give yourself a bit of a break. Oh, how do I pronounce that? Here we go. There needs to be a compilation of me trying to pronounce some difficult names. Regia. Just to say that I love your videos or your fill tutorials. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad that you benefit from them. Ty, much love from the UK. Your videos have helped me a lot as a self-taught / YouTube taught drummer. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Lions3456. How do you play drum rolls? I did talk about this briefly at the beginning, but I'll cover it very briefly again. So you can either, well, drum rolls is just a roll of any notes in any order, really. So you could have a roll that's doubles, a roll that's singles. You could do anything fundamentally. But, excuse the sniff, the two I'd probably class as like rolls are your single stroke roll and then a buzz roll. So most people, I think, if they start to get rolls, well, actually no, speaking for me, when I started trying to get a feel for rolls, because I couldn't get the single stroke roll where I wanted it to, my left hand did not cooperate, and that's why I wrote the equalizer. Like, I'd just do press rolls. Press or buzz rolls, whichever you prefer, really. And you get that by pressing into the drum, but allowing the stick to bounce at a small height. So you don't want it really high. You want to press it once and let the stick do the rest, and let it carry on, and see if you can extend it out. And then start with the other one, and then the other one, and then the other one. And you want to progressively kind of stick them together. And you want one bleeding over the other, otherwise you just end up with. So it takes a little bit of time, because really what I'm doing here is just this. Electric pad doesn't really want to cooperate, but you're basically doing 16th notes and pressing 50 and a 40 and a 1 and a 40. So that's how you get press rolls. Single stroke rolls I've done videos on before, but the issue people have is that they aren't engaging their fingers and getting enough height in the stick. Wrist isn't really moving. It's not like doubles where we need to go like kind of and have the whole shebang in motion. They go in one consistent motion from the fingers. Left hand will be more difficult, just FYI. Rom Drom. Hi Emma. Did I just lose your comment? Probably. There it is. Love you and your videos. Aww. Can you give us some samba fills? I'd say from my uncultured point of view, I can give very loose ideas. Generally, if there's something vaguely Latin going on, I can't give you samba really. This is the thing, is I don't have the knowledge to be able to go, this is Latin, this is samba, this is whatever it is. I don't have the backing on that. I'm trying to improve my knowledge on that though. But my kind of rule of thumb, same with reggae, you know, like don't crash on one or something, which is actually a load of rubbish. But with samba or whatever, if you're, let's say we're doing something like, do like 4-note triplets, that kind of thing. Wouldn't use that all the time, but it's a good kind of like, this is what this style is kind of marker. It's almost like a stereotype for a style almost. It was a cliche, I suppose. Phil Bradley, 55 years old and just started learning. Hooray! That's exciting. What is the best way to prevent sticks colliding? This is from Nigel. I'm new to drums and my electric kit seems to be a bit small and the sticks keep colliding. Thanks for all the vids, by the way. Okay, so there could be a number of things going on here, but my guess is probably, yes, the kit is probably too low because all electric kits seem to be just built for tiny people. So feel free to put things under the legs to bring up the height of everything, but also your hi-hat might be a bit too low. The other thing, if none of those are an issue, then it might be that your technique when it comes to going for, say we're doing an 8th-note groove, right? If we're going for an extra loud hit, we want to lift from both wrists to create the space necessary. So being conscious of that as well, because if you're going with just the left and trying to make space for it kind of as an afterthought, then your sticks are going to collide. But if you lift from both and come down with both, imagine they've both got a string attached to them. That'll help you a lot. No question, just wanted to say, this is Kieran, that the channel is great. I have students who have said they watched you before starting private lessons and it gave them the confidence to start. Big fan. That's amazing. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. That's really nice to hear. Like, I get messages from people saying that I'm the reason that they've got back into drums, and it's so lovely. Phil Bradley, I love your videos. My drum teacher is so impressed when I go the next week. Yay. See, I'll get all the good vibes today. Love it. Very nice. Charlie Scott, what is the best exercise to practice finger control? I find it hard to tell if I'm using my fingers or I'm cheating and reverting to using my wrist out of habit. Okay. Give me 2 seconds to adjust my pedal because this is forever finicky. Okay. Practice finger control. I mean, apart from flipping the sticks, something is a little tricky because when you're, the main issue is people go too fast. That's the one, because what will cause you to revert back is going too fast. And also, with certain things, well, actually there is a middle ground as well, so there's a lot of caveats to this point. Because if you're doing single strokes, but you're doing slower single strokes, you are actually engaging the wrist, because you don't need to engage the fingers yet. It's when you find that weird crossover fingers, can you see the changeover happen? So I'll go to start with this, and then we change there. So if you're going slightly slower, you will engage the wrist a little bit. What other advice could I give you? Trying to get just rows of singles like that, instead of trying to do single strokes where you can't focus on what's happening and you're trying to get speed out of it. Take speed out of the equation. That will happen later once everything's settled, technically. So just finding that middle ground, because if you're doing this really slow, you'd need to engage the wrist. But find where that changeover starts to happen, about there, there is still a bit of a, you know, little bit of a wibble. Not much though. And yeah, you might find that your hand goes up the stick a little bit, and that's just because it's the grip between your thumb and index finger kind of on the middle pad. If this gap here is too big, the stick can kind of fall into it and then you lose it, essentially. So it takes a while, but I'd say try that. Probably around there. Left hand will be the tricky one. I find, even for me still, that the left hand has more of a tendency to shift up and down the stick. If you want, you can also do it together to see if there's anything out of whack, like we've got like German in one hand, American in the other kind of thing. But that's what I'd probably look into first. Keep it simple. And if you get, for people who specifically want to work on their left with this, I'd play right, left, left, left. So you can even make the right an accent if you want. Right, tap, tap, tap. I was doing that a lot when I was, you can do it on the right hand. It just, I found it helps kind of get your steps in, so to speak, on the left hand if you want to really work it up quickly. The other one was, like I said earlier, 8th notes. In the right hand, 16th notes in the left. I later turned that into grooves, and that's what the equalizer is. But don't worry about that in the first place. Just get that sounding good and consistent. What's the best? Oh God, we've had so many comments since I started talking about that. Hang on. Paul Jefferson, can you please teach Indian rhythms? Right now, at this current moment in time, I'd argue not qualified to teach that, because I know nothing about Indian music and rhythms apart from what I learned at GCSE music, which was not very much. Good evening from the Philippines. Good evening to you. Well, good morning from here. What height should your toms be? I don't necessarily know. I'd say the big rule of thumb, this is a bad example, ignore this tom right here, it's currently working as a laptop stand, is you want to have a good relaxed kind of angle towards it. Right now, actually, I'd say I'm a little bit too low, because when I go for my high tom, I'm hitting the rims like that. You want to kind of ideally be hitting the drum without having to do too much of an angle on it. Common mistake that you see at like beginner kits or at schools or whatever is that the toms are like taiko drums and you're up like this. Don't do that. It should be an easy reach fundamentally. Floor tom, snare drum, you want them kind of the same height. Again, I've been adjusting my kit recently, so it's not, all of this is a bit out of whack and I'm a bit low. But that's what I'd say about that. Mid tom, kind of a similar story, angled towards you. That's probably my rule of thumb. Inspirited, but can you come up with a groove in 3/4? Yes, I can. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's all I got. Max says, I'm struggling with independence. Any tippies? I like it. I'm going to call them tippies now. Depends what kind of independence we're talking. I'm thinking now. There's a really good figure that you can use in grooves. Yeah. See, if Chris was here, I'd get him to write it out in real time. But fundamentally, it's just this. 16th notes between the hi-hat and the snare drum like a groove. 1 E and a, 2 E and a. And then you're going to put on the first group of 4 a bass drum on the 1 and the 1 E and a 2. So it's coming down that bass drum just before you go to the snare drum. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, E and a, 4 E and a. That's pretty good for independence all by itself, but this is because I was teaching this to a student yesterday. Put an open hi-hat, because we want to engage the left foot, on the E. So 1 E, because that'll have to come down on the and where the right's happening. Like I said, bit tricky to kind of explain and show you without any notation, but see how that goes, because that's a bit of a nifty one, especially when you get it up to speed. Hi Emma, your videos are refreshingly great. What technique do you recommend for playing fast 16ths? One hand on the hi-hat, push, pull, shank, tip, molar. What is the best way to practice this to get faster? Which grooves and when to increase the speed? Oh, so what am I doing normally? I think this is technically push, pull. I think. Kind of. I just, what you really want to think about is you're going downstroke on the edge and just lift from the wrist. So it's kind of a half molar, half push pull. It's hard to say. I'm lifting from the wrist, and as a byproduct of the angle of the hand coming down because the wrist is shifting, you're in a position to just go boop on the way up. You don't want it to be 2 separate notes like that. You want it to be a really fluid motion. In terms of what grooves to practice, honestly, practice anything you like, but the important part is that you're aware of what surface you should be hitting for which note. So like all your ones and ands, actually no, if we're talking 8th notes, we won't talk 16th notes just to begin with, but if you're talking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, I'd say the first one you want to practice is a bar of on beats, so all the bass drums coming down with the shoulder of the stick. And then the bass drum is the only thing that changes, bear that in mind with this, that then you're playing all the ands. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, for example. If you want to take that to the next step, you just count it differently. So you'd count this then as 16th notes. So you do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and O 2 E and O 3 E and O 2 E and O 1. So everything's the same, but the bass drums are kind of double time. So the first lot will be all the bass drums coming down with all the hi-hats, because those are 8th notes. And then your E's and U's will fall in between 1 E and E and those are really good for just trying to solidify that motion in your hand. Where are we at? Left leg hi-hat independence. Any double bass. Left leg hi-hat independence. What would I do? What would I do? Probably not the fun thing. No, the first step with hi-hat independence, left foot hi-hat independence, and it's probably going to sound really loud because this is really clunky and the hi-hat is not very loud. It's a bit better. Is practicing just a straight 8th groove on the ride cymbal with all your different options. So you've got quarter note on the beat, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got eighth notes. So this will sync up with your right hand. Or if you're a bit more adventurous, you're offbeat. And, and, which is a personal favourite of mine. And then the step forward from that would be to pick kind of which one you want to practice and then move through a bass drum exercise, because that's probably the thing that's going to change the most with your grooves. So you go through the on beat, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E, E, 3 E, E, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Not that fast, just to clarify. Not that fast. But that kind of ilk. That's what I'd probably practice for that. The kind of opposite end of that might be where you're still playing at 8 straight 8, but you just move where you're playing this. So let's see if I can do it. So it'll be 4 notes on the quarter notes first of all, 3, and then on the E, 1 E, the E, 4 E, the and 1 and 2 and 3 and then the 1, 2, 3, 4. Combining that kind of set of exercises probably sort you out, honestly. Right. So we've got a number of questions from Miguel about double bass. I'm gonna be real with you. I've got nothing. I've got nothing on double bass. I've got a double bass pedal right here. Do I play it? No. And I think that's just because I've never been that interested in... Well, I do like music that requires some double pedal, but it's just not my shtick, really. So that's why I personally haven't really developed it. So sadly, I can't give much advice as of this moment. I might get bored at some point and just go, you know what? I'm gonna get really good at this. But right now, I don't. So it is now 10:30. So we're gonna move into the rhythm workout, which is the thing I post on my membership. So if you want to watch this back, you need the membership. Where we just basically, usually I go through 10-minute different classes, which is beginners and then intermediate, and it's just to hold people accountable. So if you've got your practice pad or whatever, if you're at a kit, if you can right now, even if you've got your lap, that's fine. In fact, let's do something snare related. Does anyone have any suggestions for what they'd like to work on in terms of something they're just simple usually that they want to just spend some time on and they never do? What we got? Let's see, because what am I thinking? I've kind of exhausted my list of things to work out with. So first of all, while we're getting some things through, we'll just start with some single strokes, right hand leading. Let's do 16th notes, but slowly. And I will hold the pole with a kick drum. Miguel, sadly, I also have nothing on blast beats. I apologise. So the point of these workouts isn't specifically to do anything really, really tricky. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do kind of mental workouts. But sometimes it's just something to get you sat and playing, because it can be so easy to not. E, E, and A, 4, E, and A. We're getting quite a lot of, well, we've had 2 lots of paradiddles so far. Anyone else want to do paradiddle things? Let me know. E, and A. Ooh, moving accents within the paradiddle. Ooh, that's an exercise I did at uni. And there's kind of 2 ways you can go about it. So we might... It is quite advanced though. Let me clarify. Okay. In fact, let's do that. Let's do it. So there's an exercise, like I said, I did it at uni, and you move the paradiddle through the bar, and this, you're actually displacing the paradiddle. This isn't moving the accent within it. That's a slightly different exercise. Let me just think. because you got paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. Actually, that's probably easier than trying to do. Yeah, sod it. Alright, we'll do not that. That's the one I learned at uni. We will do accents just moving through the paradiddle. So we'll start with normal paradiddles, accenting the first of each side. So right, left, right, right, left, right, left, 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 right, right, left, right, left, left. And just get back kind of warmed up into it. If you haven't really thought about your technique with paradiddles before, you might notice that when I'm playing the double in one hand, left, it's like my wrist in the other hand is being lifted up. So when I go for a double, lift, lift, left, right, lift, lift. And we're doing that lift to get that accent. Right, lift, lift. Just makes it all a bit more flowy. Right, left, lift, lift, left, right, lift, lift. And to start moving the accent through paradiddles, you're going to want to be very comfortable with just the sticking of paradiddles. You don't really want to be thinking about it too much anymore. And again, if I had someone to write out what I'm talking about right now, it would be a lot easier to kind of show you what's happening. Left, right, right. So that's your normal one. Now we're going to move the accent to the E. So the sticking remains the same. Nothing changes. It's still right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. But we will go tap first on the right. So you get right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And this gets a little tricky if you bring out the speed, because it's quite easy to kind of lose where you are because the accent's on the E. So I suggest putting a foot of some description on the one. So that's that first right and that first left. So one, E, and right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Right, right, left, right, left. So this is accent on the E. E and to E and E and to E and Can take a bit to just get comfortable with that. Doesn't matter if you can't keep up either, that's fine. If you want to watch this back after this is done, then check out the membership. If you want to take this a bit more step by step in your own time. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Okay, so that's your E. To E and What you'd probably want to do then is, instead of moving straight on to the and the is just get used to transitioning from on the pulse to the E. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Right? Okay. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when you're going for that double, this one should probably feel a bit more comfortable because your and is naturally going to lift up for the double anyway. So tap, tap, double. Right, left. That second note of the double, try and make that nice and low, or at least equal to the previous note. So right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And 2. And right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Makes quite a good groove. Ooh, messed up the sticking. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Don't worry if you can't keep up, feel free to practice whatever other one I've just given you. This is just around 4 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So run through that quickly. And then the last one would be accenting. This is probably the trickier one of all of them, because now we're going to play the very last note of the paradiddle as an accent. So that means it's the right, left, right, right. So it's the second note of a double, which can be a bit tricky to get the accent out of. So you get right, left, right, right. It's a good way to practice your kind of tap, whip motion if you're doing molar stuff. Right, left, tap, lift from the wrist, whip it up to get the second note. Tap. Paradiddle, paradiddle. If I think about it too much, it goes wrong. 3, E, and up. 1, E, and up. 2, E, and up. 3, E, and up. 4, E, and up. So you get right, left, 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 right, left. So, after that, you just stick it all together. She says just like it's an easy thing to do. Takes time and practice. One, E, and a, 2, E, and a, 3, E. Ah! I'm changing it to sticking in the other exercise. I got to think about it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Paradiddle. 4. Same sticking the whole way through. And at the end you'll get 2 accents because we're going accent on the and then accent on the 1. That's a good one, that is. And I think that'll probably do for the rhythm workout this week. While we're also figuring out how we're going to get the flow of lives and everything else sorted. But we'll keep it short this week and I will upload this to the membership, or this section of the live to the membership. Have we got any more questions? Let's have a quick look. Then Ratamacue. What is... I need to actually double check because I always get confused what a Ratamacue actually is. Ratamacue. Reject. No, I don't want a video. I just want to see an image of it. If it wants to load. Who knows? There we go. Yeah, I thought so. Love me a Ratamacue. If you don't know what a Ratamacue is, it's kind of like a ruff with a little drag before it. This is why it's quite valuable to really have your fundamental rudiments down, because basically it gives you all the ingredients for everything else that comes later. It's, yes, it can be worth it to, you know, try and get Swiss Army triplets or whatever straight out the gate, like, but it's probably more valuable to get your hand-to-hand triplets sounding good and your flam sounding good separately, or your flam taps, because that's kind of what it is, sounding good first. But Ratamacue's a good one. Do I use, how often do I? I think I use ruffs more than I use Ratamacues. Love me a ruff. Right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right. Very nice, very nice. And I still don't understand why the kit sound is a bit clunky, but it is what it is. When it comes to doubles, how do you move from not using your back fingers, basically dropping the stick in control manner, to engaging all your fingers? Is relying on the index thumb and rebound bad? No, it's not bad. I'd say when it comes to doubles, the only finger I'm not using when I'm playing doubles is the pinky finger, and that's why you see people having those like posh fingers happen, because they're relaxing their hand a bit too much and these fingers poke out. You can do it just, if I take out all the fingers apart from my grip, you can get doubles out of it. So there's actually nothing technically wrong with that, but having your fingers engaged as well gives it a bit more power, a bit more oomph, and a bit more control. So that's no fingers. It is a subtle difference, especially on an electric kit. But honestly, it doesn't actually make a world of difference. It might make more of a difference when you're doing some slightly more technical stuff and you just need that extra bit of control. But the key with the doubles is getting the height you need. That's the common thing I see with people. They don't let the height happen. They might let the stick bounce, but then they're pressing in a bit too much. Don't be afraid to let this open right up, because then you can just kind of make it smaller again once you've got the technique and sounding good. Which sound do I use on the TD27? This isn't actually a TD27. This is a TD30. So I use a kit on the TD30 called High Picker. Well, it's called Piccolo, and then I have tuned up the snare drum because I wanted it to be just that bit higher, because I was doing a lot of work at the time with the equalizer and all that stuff. So I wanted to have a defined snare drum. Any other questions? I think I need to just double check, but we might have an exciting guest on at 11. So let's find out where they are, because we may. Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So we may have some exciting guests. In fact, we do have some exciting guests. Have they joined the call? No, they haven't yet, but Bex, if you want to let them know that they can join the call, go for it. So we're going to have Chris, the lovely Chris who was on last week, and also hopefully Vicky O'Neon, who has toured with Anastasia and other people, I've forgotten who, but she's currently on tour with Anastasia, and what else? She's just done lots of stuff. If you've seen a lady playing drums who has dreadlocks and neon hair, it's probably her, and she's a hoot, so hopefully we'll get them on in just a moment. If Bex is still paying attention, of course. Let's find out, shall we? I think they're sorting that out now. But in the meantime, have you got any more questions? What is the sitch? How are we all doing? Wow, we've got 76 watching right now. Oh, and I've paused my own live stream. I guess, my question is for you guys is, what would you like to see video-wise in the future? What topics are you wanting to see more of that I'm not potentially already doing? That's what I want to know. Hello. Fat travelling drummer. Hello, nice to see you again. Thanks so much for showing us your talent. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to show you my talent. Hopefully it inspires you to play drums. Hopefully. That's the plan. But yeah, I'm currently, at this very moment, open to suggestions for what you'd like to see in these videos. I feel very not warmed up right now, so let's bring the volume down. I don't know why I'm sat so low as well. Video on ergonomics. That's a good idea. It's a very good idea. The reason I haven't really spoken on it so far is because I'm not hyper informed on it. So I will get better informed and do that. Right, we got Vicky O'Neon coming on. Are we ready? Let's do it. Off.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, how are we doing?
Hey,
It's been so long. How are we doing?
very good.
Good. I'm good. I'm good. How goes editing things? Is that why we're in Paris? What's happening?
Gosh, yeah,
Um,
we've been in an editing machine for the
Right.
last 8 hours.
Oh. I hate to say you look it, but you do look it.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, it's been one of those. Hasn't it, Vicky? We've been absolutely solid in this room for 14 hours a day for the last 2-3 days. So
Oh my god. How far through are you? Are you close to getting it done, or are you still? Oh no!
Vicky wanted to get 6 episodes done, and we got 1 completed. So yeah,
Well, it's pretty epic
it
when
it
it
is.
eventually will
Yeah,
come
it's gonna
out.
be
Yeah.
be good.
Good.
It's gonna be
Good,
good.
good,
It's
good,
it's
good,
the Beats on Wheels series where
Yeah.
he's going around and recording different people across the UK with a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
challenges and turning it into a song in 12 hours. So yeah, it's
And get a bunch of nasty forfeits if I fail the challenges. So.
God.
like
That
having
sounds
to
cool.
record in very disgusting places and yeah.
Oh
So
no.
it's-
Are we talking like nasty toilets and stuff? What?
I mean, maybe you'll have to find out. Yes.
That's pretty wild. I like it. I like it. Okay.
Do we have a specific topic that we want to talk about today, or are we going to jump into
I
stuff
mean,
that
we
people
do
are
have a
asking?
question. I think I'm going to ask
Yeah, let's
Vicky
go with that.
this.
Let's go with the question.
Because you probably have better ideas for this. So, Vicky, how long do you, before a gig, warm up? What do you do, and how long do you do it for? And also after a gig, do you do any cooling down or anything?
No, I don't. I
neither
probably
do
should.
I.
I do warm up before
Yeah.
a gig. I don't necessarily time myself doing it, but I'd say it's probably about 15 to 20 minutes. Because I usually try to make sure I'm ready to go on stage. But we kind of need to be like standby 20 minutes before we go on stage, anyways. And I always have my practice pad with me, which actually looks like a mouse pad at the moment because I used to have a proper practice pad with me and I kept losing them. And then at the UK Drum Show last year, were you also given one by Drum Channel that is actually a mouse pad, but it's a
No.
practice
No, I didn't. No, I missed out on free stuff. No.
For anyone who is like moving around a lot and thinks
Yeah.
it's annoying to actually carry a practice pad with you, a mouse pad works just as well. You get through it a bit quicker than a practice pad,
Yeah.
but still, I've had the same one from the UK Drum Show last year for all of my warm ups, and then I just bring it. I start doing my warm up in the dressing room, and then I just take it with me behind stage because often we need to be standing behind stage about 10 minutes, and I hate that time just before you go on stage anyways. It's like, come on, I just want to go on and get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good way to actually just have the practice pad there
To
and
get the
then just
nervous energy out.
be ready to go.
Yeah. I find that all I really need to warm up is like the fingers kind of side of it, of like making sure the fingers are engaging. Because if you don't, that really shows. Like your doubles just, they just don't do what you want them to. Or your hand seize up quicker, I find.
Yeah, or just having like for example, with Anastasia, like our intro is like this big epic intro, and there's some
Right.
and it's like I need to be at that
Straight away.
energy when I go on stage. So if I haven't warmed up, then it's like, whoa.
For sure. Is there ever been any kind of like bits where it's been very touch and go in terms of you haven't been able to warm up before or anything like that? Like any.
There's a
Any
couple
gigs?
of times I left the practice pad in the dressing room or even in the hotel. So then I've just had the sticks, but then I've just tried to like use my leg
Yeah.
to warm up on instead or something like that, or just find any surface I can
Yeah.
hit.
Have you ever tried like rubber tip sticks?
Um,
I saw
yes.
Steve Gadd using some, and I was like,
Yeah, or
if he can use them, they're
I've
probably
had
good.
rubber tips,
Yeah.
which the sticks were called, it's by Tech for Drumsticks, and they were meant for electronic drum kits, but they essentially have rubber tips, so that works quite well. And then I've also had this actual little like gray balls that you put on top of the tip
Yeah.
of the stick,
Yeah.
and but they tend to fall off when you practice.
Makes
So and
sense.
that's why I've kept losing them. So yeah.
What about you, Chris? Do you warm up normally? I mean, when was the last time you played a gig?
Like 4 or 5 years ago, probably. I've still got that one coming up in like 3 weeks that I need to start practicing. But Yeah, I have always tried to, if I don't warm up physically drumming, I'm always trying to get my hands warm, smacking them together, doing some stretches, moving them, and if it's cold, wear gloves. That's an easy way of keeping your hands warm.
Oh, yeah.
And like that's something for sure that I've always tried to do. But yeah, I probably have never warmed up enough, and I think that you realize that you have to once you start doing more of a tour and regular gigs back to back, like you get away with it 1 or 2 nights in a row, and then all of a sudden that then leads to problems if you don't.
Yeah.
But I was just seeing that a couple of people have asked about technique, and actually that's interesting. This goes hand in hand with warming up, and again, if you've got good technique, then I think that's going to help you straight away do what Vicky was saying. If you've got to come straight on stage, actually your base level, even with minimal warming up, is already at a level.
For sure.
Right? So that's something that I think is also really important to make sure that you've got the right technique to execute on, especially if you're gigging like 2 hours or something, right? And for those of you thinking, well, I don't gig, this is the same principle if you're in a rehearsal room with your friends in a band.
Oh, 100%.
Like the fact they can be worse sometimes, those sessions.
Because rehearsals can go on for way longer than
absolutely.
So that's really important as well with that. So I don't know if there's anything there, Vicky, that you got to add about kind of technique, and do you have anything specific?
No, I mean, to be honest, like most of the warm-up I do is literally just singles and doubles and paradiddles, and it's just crazy how we can never practice those enough. It's true, right?
Yeah.
One thing I don't really warm up, and I was wondering if you have any suggestions on that, is my feet.
Someone's just asked here about using foot leg and like an inflammation problem that they have. I think first and foremost, I think it's super important to say if you have any types of injuries, you should be going to see a specialist on that specific thing that you need to look at. There are, for anybody out there are really good charities for musicians, even if you don't classify yourself as a musician, you're just playing for fun, that actually know how to deal with it. Like when drummers do this type of thing too much, it causes this problem, and they will help you. One of them, BAPAM, that's in London. I think they're still going. Do you know about BAPAM? I think they helped you as well.
I've used BAPAM, but that was through
funded through the
it was a non-profit called Help Musicians that then recommended BAPAM and actually funded anything that I needed help from BAPAM.
But if you go to BAPAM, they will help you potentially find funding as well, and that's an important thing. And obviously there's different ones in America and different places, but that's something I would say straight away. But hopefully if you use the right technique in the first place, in theory, as long as you don't overplay for too long straight out the gate, like you build up how much you practice for, then you shouldn't have these issues.
Sure.
Foot leg technique specifically, it's actually interesting. This is
how do you warm up with that?
So for me, like there's a really simple warm up actually with this. If you're using that, if this can be like a heel toe, this can be like a slide technique or a foot leg or a combination of all, depending on the speed you're at. Just simply having just a like right, left, and then kick, and
just on the floor.
Just on the floor. Yeah, just on the floor. And ideally, try and get a practice pad with a kick drum on it, like a kick drum pedal.
But that's super hard if you're moving around.
That's hard if you're moving around. But I think a lot of people probably watching are just generally asking about warming up, right? Even before you practice. So, and instead of just jumping straight in, that's a really good one. And then you basically start really slow, build the speed up, hold it at like a medium speed, bring it back down, come back up, push it a little bit higher, and then try and hit up to your peak and bring that back down and actually warm it back down. That's a really good way to do that. That's a great exercise. That gets your feet pretty warmed up, Even if you can't play really fast, you just hit to whatever your limit is and bring that back down.
So is that just for your right foot then?
That's for your right foot. Yeah, exactly. And I think that if you're using your left foot like a lot, you can do similar type exercises, right? But generally, for most people, at most points, you're probably not playing like stepped hi-hat continuously like you are with your kick drum. If you're doing double pedal, that's a whole different thing, right? But then double pedal, just do the same exercises, but with your left foot or with two feet and double the tempo, for example, with that.
And another thing that I'm always thinking about in terms of practice is like when I'm practicing on an acoustic drum kit, for those of you who do that, is it actually better to do my warm-up on a practice pad, like not on the actual drum kit, because the sound, it's just like different things that comes out as soon as you sit on the kit.
Yeah.
So you might pay attention the same way to what you're doing if you're not on a pad. So what's your thoughts on
So you're
this?
saying that you think you should be a pad first and then come over to the kit, or actually do the warm up on the kit?
Yeah.
I think it depends.
No, on the pad.
On the pad.
Yeah. But I'm in 2 months. I can never make up my mind.
I think it depends on the situation, because if you've got something like you where you're on tour and you know the setup is how you want it, then I think that's, go for pad first and make sure your hands are warm kind of thing. But if you haven't got a sound check, or you haven't got a this or that, and you're on someone else's kit, or it's like a festival gig, or it's a this or that or the other, then maybe trying to somehow get some time on that kit is probably better. But being on a kit, it will distract you 100%. There's no way it won't. It just will. We're drummers.
If
we
you're
want
at
to play
home
them.
practicing.
Yes,
so you
yeah. If you're at home, I'd still... pad is probably better, because, like you say, it will keep you more focused on how you feel opposed to how it sounds. So I think that's probably still the better route.
Another thing to remember as well, that if you're on an acoustic drum kit especially, and bearing in mind, I'd say that 80% of people don't have their rooms treated for this, fatigue's a massive thing.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly on the acoustic drum kit, you're going to get quite tired quite quickly, not even physically, well you will physically, but as well as with your ears. So you can actually really practice on the practice pad, get some really good, like, get your hands warmed up, okay, and then you can come over onto the kit. Then you can do a full kit warm up, right? So maybe going around the drum kit, playing along to a song. I always think it's nice to start with songs that you like if you can already play songs. And even if you're not playing the exact song, you're just playing a beat along to it, getting in a good mood to start the practice. But ideally, warmed up before that. Again, like, I don't warm up on the practice pad. I just walk around the house or whatever I am before. I'll be doing these kind of exercises and get my hands moving. So this is something that I do a lot of.
And one thing that I always have with me on tour is actually like
a grip.
Grip
Smart.
exercise things where you can change the weight.
Oh.
So it's actually a thing that is like training the muscles of your hands.
Yeah.
And depending on how much you tighten it, it's like it feels like you're gripping like 5 kilos or 10 kilos. And then I always do like some exercise with that before I even start to warm up.
Have you ever had any injuries?
I haven't, fortunately, but I have so many friends that have. And I was one of my best friends that I was living with a few years ago, she had RSI. So she was the one who was using these to like get rid of her RSI. So she gave one of these to me, and then I thought, well, I haven't had any issues so far, but I also don't want to get any issues. So it's just good to stay on top of it and think about these, prevent these things. Because once you've had the damage, it can be so hard to repair it. So as much preventive work that we can all do, I think is better.
Yeah.
Do either of you ever get any like lower back / hip kind of tension, especially on the kick leg? I'm curious.
My weak spot is usually in between.
Me too. Yeah.
My shoulder, like on the left hand side. It's from my snare.
Yeah.
Snare hits, and I think it's sometimes firing back.
Because you like to whack the kit as well. You don't mess about.
Hard.
Do you get the right leg?
Yes, that's why I'm kind of keep trying to figure out what it is. Am I sitting right now? I'm sat way too low, but I've been sitting higher to try and compensate and not have to put as much weight through the leg to be able to like have it be as heavy, if that makes sense. Because what's happening is like I'm lifting my leg to play bass drum, but it seems to just pull this shorter and therefore pulls my hip kind of out of whack, so to speak. Don't know what is causing it, because the height of the chair doesn't seem to have a massive amount of effect.
Yeah, I've never had a good bass drum technique, which is I really want to improve, and I've been trying to play around a lot with the seat height to try to figure out. I've never quite had that pain, but do you have any advice on like the best seat height for better bass drum technique?
You know what? There's so much contradiction information on this.
Yeah.
So I've always gone with the ilk of being like slightly more perched towards the end, so that the energy isn't going into the stall. But recently, I was watching a drummer who actually Ryan was talking about. Emma, your producer in your band.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying actually how you don't want to do that because of these back things you was talking about. So that'd be really interesting to try and get him on.
I would really love to try and talk to, like, there's a couple people online who are
he's
like
a specialist on
really
this type of
yes.
area and actually goes into the science behind it.
I would eat that up.
Science, so maybe we'll get them on to do a really specific technique. That would be really interesting.
Love to see that.
Yes,
but like,
sure.
I think you just got to think about the ergonomics of things, right? If you sit right back on, like, I'm going to do this. If you sit right back, all the energy is going to go into that rather than into the bass drum. So you're going to have to work harder to get a louder sound, a faster sound, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Somebody's just asked here about, whilst we're on it, and it's a comment specifically, about 16th note kick drums. I think was it Andrea or Andre I saw?
Andrea, yeah.
Yeah, Andrea. Yeah, there we go, Andrea. And any tips for consistent 16th notes? And it's the same kind of thing about kick drum technique.
Right, he's going 70 BPM.
1.
Oh, that's loud.
Yeah,
Jeez.
play that, Emma. See if you can play it.
2. 3.
4. So that's kind of medium tempo he's going for. So
Yeah, play
kind
it. See what happens.
of, that kind of thing. See, I don't know if I'd be able to keep that up for a whole song, but I'm using I'm almost kind of floating. Kind of. My toes aren't leaving the pedal, but most of my leg is floating, and I'm using the spring kind of action to make it
Momentum
as efficient as
of it.
possible. Yeah. I don't know if that is the best technique or not. I think a metalhead would probably say no, but I don't
You're
know.
not gonna use, in that situation, someone's talking about leg. The foot was where you drop down, right?
Yeah.
And then where you have up and you play the heel up.
Yeah,
You're not going down because there's not enough time. So it's
No.
just heel up. That's basically just going to be heel up, right?
For sure.
And it's just practicing that. And what I would say, if it's at 70 BPM, I'd be pulling it back a little bit slower first and then building it back up as per usual. But what's probably happening, that is where at 70 BPM is that block where you almost might have to change your technique a bit.
Yeah.
And this is something where it changes, right, between that. There's that crossover period. It's different for everybody, but there's going to be where you actually need to try and push faster, and it goes against all of the like perfect muscle memory building. You've actually got to push through that physically. It's like trying to sprint in comparison to jogging. Different muscles engage.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to try it, I think.
So if you would pump that up to like 80 or 85, are you
Yeah.
saying you would need to use a completely different
You might
technique?
have to change the technique.
Let's have a hang on.
Momentum,
Let's find
you're
it.
Momentum. Yeah, see
1,
what it is for you,
2,
Emma.
3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2,
Let me
3,
push it up a bit
4.
higher.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
It's still, I think you're right. It's 70 is kind of that mid tempo where there's a lot of space. When you're using that technique, there's a lot of space.
Yes.
So you're kind of hovering even more. It feels slow for that technique. So being up slightly. But also the other thing I was going to say about that is don't go for really long strings straight away, because you'll just get fatigued, and it won't work. Go for like strings of like 2 bars or something, and then bring it back down so you can kind of reset and relax the muscles again, because that will probably help you prevent injury as well if you're doing something different or technically different.
It's really important. In fact, I had a physio that told me, they were like, if you're going for a certain period of time, this is both for your ears in a loud room and also physically. If you're going to do, let's say, half an hour straight, have half an hour break on that. That's so whatever your limit is. If it's 10 minutes to start with, you probably don't want to do more than 10 minutes. If it's 5 minutes, if it's depending on what the exercise is.
But is Emma is also saying literally do 2 bars on, 2 bars rest, 2 bars on,
And you
2
can build it
bars
up.
rest.
4 bars, 8
Absolutely,
bars.
Same with single strokes and all the
But have
other
a
fast
16
stuff.
bar rest if you're doing that. Give yourself a good
Yeah.
amount of rest,
Yeah.
and then have so that's one. Another one that works on the rest, and also you have to then be able to engage into the technique. If you do the groove that Emma just played, don't play the kick drum on the 2 and 4 with the snare drum.
Oh yeah.
And it gives you that break. And actually, also, you've got to try and come back into the technique to execute straight off.
It does make all the difference. It really does.
Yeah.
Same when you're going for kind of like that kind of groove.
Same thing.
Not playing constantly will save you so much, so much.
So that's another thing. If it's because it's specifically for a song, that will give you a very similar vibe. also it trains different things. You have to start and stop, and your brain has to get back into that momentum again after stopping. And what other questions have we got? Is there anything there that's caught your eye? Lots of nice comments.
So Scorby, he is one of the big talkers in the Discord.
Okay.
And he said, I have a TD27. My wife calls it the other woman.
I have a TD27. I love it. Do you have a TD27?
No, this is a TD30. Is the TD30 kind of the ones before the TD27 and stuff, or is it?
I don't know
I don't
actually.
know what
None
order
of us
they've all come out in.
technical in that
No,
sense.
I just know that how many outputs do you have on that? Is that
Oh, 8.
okay? Yeah, so mine only has 4. The TD27 has 4. So it has a stereo output and 2 direct outputs. So you're more limited if you want to send it out.
I see.
That's a good question here.
Yeah.
I think this one is because this is really common. What's the fastest way to learn licks and chops, and how much time from daily practice is recommended to spend? Because there are licks that seem to take a very long time to master. And what's the name? Sorry, I can't. It's
Shy, I think. Shy.
Yeah. Shay. Go on, Emma. You answer that first.
I maintain the fastest way to learn things is by going the slowest. That's you just can't really argue with that. And the consistency, you don't have to do it for a really long time every day. It's just about doing it every day, because that's how it's kind of compounding learning instead of trying to sit and do it all at once. However, I'm a massive hypocrite when it comes to that, because what I do, I do the slow thing, but I try and, in some cases, I try and groovify it. So I feel it as if it's a groove and try and make it feel good, because especially if it's something simple, you want to sit with it. And I find putting a metronome on also really helps this, of trying to just meditate almost with it and sink into it. And your body gets way more familiar with it way more easily, I find, if you do that. With sticking to the same thing with a metronome and just really focusing on that metronome, I just find I'm just gone. I just go somewhere else and my brain sorts out the rest. Especially if it's something simple. If it's something more complicated, then that obviously will take a bit longer. But yeah, that's my kind of tack.
To add to that, Emma, just to really break that down to people.
Yes,
Emma
yeah.
has said this in her videos, but obviously, I'm sure people have jumped in and seen bits at different points, and you get different contexts. Don't start if you're going to learn something new. Let's just say a good ballpark figure is somewhere between 50 and 60 BPM to start something if it's 16th notes. Yeah, let's just say that, okay? What happens is you put it on at 60 for 2 times round. Cool, I can do that, and let's chuck up to 70. Let's chuck up, or you just don't do a metronome and you just start speeding up. Sit for longer and actually spend 10 minutes going up in 2 BPM intervals. Okay. Let's say you kind of run out of time in the practice. Feel free to hit what I call the turbo boost. Or can I do it at 90? Let's just have a quick little try, and then okay, no, I'm going to go back and do that tomorrow. But I think that sit longer for slower, and that equals faster. Because the whole thing of fast, slow equals smooth, smooth equals fast, and I think that's it.
And I think one really important thing is to truly internalize the lick, the rhythm that you're trying to play. My first drum teacher was always like, if you can sing it, you can play it. And I did a Brazilian rhythm workshop recently, and before we touched any instruments, they made us first sing the rhythm and then tap our bodies and sing the rhythm at the same time. Because it was like, you need to have it inside of you before you can get it out of you. So it's like starting that process and doing that when you're cooking, when you're brushing your teeth, you just have that rhythm going on in your head. That's a part of your practice also. And then being able to also then realize that that one lick that you might have learned on very specific drums, very specific voicing, you can take that same rhythm and apply it in so many different ways on the kit. So if you want to really develop your shredding or your this, and realize that by you learning one thing, you can probably apply that in 20 different ways. So then your toolkit gets expanded by 20 if you go through that method of starting slow, internalizing that rhythm.
Can I?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to try something fun here. Don't hate me, Emma, but you've got a drum kit in front of you. So let's take the exercise that we discussed last week's live, right?
Yes.
Which was to play the kick drum on the 1, the E, the and, and the okay?
Yes.
It's like standard ostinato.
Yep.
And you are then basically going to just say the kick drum into the mic instead of playing it. Okay? So it's this simple, right?
Okay.
So you're going to play the hands and you're going to say the kick drum. Okay, just to show people one of the ways that you can do what Vicky's talking about in an actual application way.
Yep.
Can you break down each different part of it? Okay, and does your brain understand it, or is it just the muscle memory? Your hands have done that specific thing in that order. Right?
Should I play through what the exercise actually is first?
Yeah, do it first.
And then I'll just say it. Okay, so. 2, 3, 1, E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, E, 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 and, what? That kind of shebang. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So now, Emma,
The pressure's on.
We're going to say or sing, as Vicky was saying, the kick drum.
I just did it.
Oh, sorry, I was typing the comment. Okay, so now, okay, you're going to do a bar with the kick drum.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next bar you're going to change to then playing the kick drum but saying the snare drum instead. And then the following bar you're going to change to the hi-hats and play the kick and the snare drum.
Hang on.
So first one, say
Yeah.
the kick drum, then say the snare drum, and then say the hi-hats.
Okay, so is it that I'm doing like
And
3
then
bars in a
whatever
row
Yeah.
with the bass drum on the 1,
Yeah.
and then 3 bars in a row with the bass? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but we'll see how this goes. Is Vicky also struggling with this? Because I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying the bass drum for the first one, right?
Yes. Second one, you're going to say the snare drum, and then the kick drum you're actually doing.
Okay.
Snare drum when you say the snare drum.
Yeah.
Okay,
But actually,
yeah.
Emma, voice it, be like boom, boom, or da da.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
All
And then
right.
you do that for the next one.
Okay. To Gretch Ludwig Drummer, why don't you ever reply to comments? Because I'm busy playing. That's why. Right.
Fine. That's who I was replying to.
So, I'm going to have to count it instead, otherwise I'm just going to lose it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4, 1,
Yeah.
2, E, 3, E, 4, E, 1, E, 2, E, 4. Ah!
That's it.
God!
That's it, right? If you can
Oh!
really understand that, you can have that in your brain, right? If you can say parts of it and play other parts of it. So you could take the same thing, Emma, your favourite thing, like with the 6s, for example.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
da 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 da, and then boom boom.
Yeah.
So just say the kick drum, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah, and then say
that kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And then you can swap over to da 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 boom boom, and then do the kick, for example, right? And basically, what this is trying to do, if you can say these different parts of it, your brain has to fully comprehend it. It's not just a muscle memory exercise that you repeat a bunch of times, right? So I was putting Emma through her paces. We would normally just work on one, and then another, and then But
Yeah, showing me up in front of other drummers.
yeah, exactly. She's gonna get her own back when it's me the other way around.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Just you wait. What we got?
Let's have a look, see what other people are saying. We've got some stories here. We can have a story time. Gigs and S. We won't say what the other word is, but
Oh yeah. During a lesson, my tutor went off to make the teas. He left me practicing some AC/DC. He came back to me thrashing the hell out of the kit. It was the best lesson I've ever had. Really got into it. I'd say that's a huge thing. A lot of people come in playing very shy because they're afraid of breaking the drums. I made that mistake once of telling a young kid, "Oh, you can hit it as hard as you want." There's like this kid was going from all the way back here to hit the crash. Like we're talking trying to break it. I said, you know, you can hit it as hard as you want. Don't try and break it. I'm still training him out of it, honestly, because it's a bit like, oh my god, that's not my drum kit.
I think something that at least I very much had when I first started learning the drums, because I had lessons from the very beginning of starting to learn the drums. I never sat down and just played music.
Yeah.
So then I always had this idea of like, I need to be told exactly what to play to be able to sit down and do anything on the drum kit. I didn't realize you could have so much fun and just freedom just by sitting down and doing what it sounds like, this experience that we just shared here. And I think it's really important to find that relationship with the drums early on, that you can just sit down and have fun. It doesn't matter if you're playing the accurate part, the drum parts to whatever you're playing along to, but just sit and jam along. And that's how most of my favorite drummers, that's the way they got so good at what they were doing. And it took me many years before I found that myself. So if anyone else is resonating with this story, just allow yourselves to just sit down, put on music and just jam along.
Yeah, it's a common thing. Yeah,
I think that's actually for all of us at any level. This is not, doesn't matter. In fact, we were having this conversation a couple of months back, Vicky, when it was like, how often do you just sit, put Spotify on, or YouTube or any competitor, whatever, and just play to some songs?
I haven't done that.
I don't care if you completely fluff up. It doesn't matter. You're just trying to catch the rhythm. And we actually did it the other day, didn't? When you guys were editing, I needed a break, and I just put some songs on. That was the editor's like songs that he chose, and I was just improvising to it. And like, I know I'm going to play it wrong. It doesn't matter. It's fun. Like I'm just having fun.
But what even you saying I'm gonna play it wrong, it's like you're just not gonna play the parts that the drummer is playing on the record, but that doesn't mean that you're playing it wrong. You're just creating. You're actually creating in that part. You're not learning someone else's parts. You are creating your own parts in that context.
Well, that's kind of what the idea with the songbook series is, because we're just giving you the ingredients. You kind of need to sound vaguely like this person and what the structure's doing and all that stuff, but it's about just being able to play, and then you put yourself into that, because it's not just about replicating other people. Definitely not. Sure.
And actually programs, like AI today could be quite fun tools to play around with this concept, like Moises, for example, where you can just go and put in a song there, remove the drums, and then you create the drum parts. Because, it doesn't have to be what the original drum parts were.
I think that's actually one of the beauty of the drums, guys. Like the other instruments, it's more critical. Like if you change an AC/DC riff, you change the fundamental of the song, right? The drums, actually, you don't play the same parts as in the recording on the Anastasia stuff, do you? You're not like verbatim, this is exactly what it is. It
depends which song it is.
Well, exactly. Sometimes that's really important. Other times that isn't. And that's like a decision of yourself, if you're jamming with yourself, if you're in a band, the band, if it's, for an artist, what they want. But so often it isn't actually important. And it's certainly not important. One of the things that's happened, a trend in the UK recently with some we have exams called graded exams, is some of the mark schemes are like, if you hit a mid tom rather than the low tom, you lose a mark. And you're like, that is training people to play the drums wrong. And that's happening a lot. And it also happens in high school music in England. If certain examiners, because they play the trumpet, they go, well, that's that drum and that's wrong. And it's like, obviously on the trumpet, if you change the note of a particular riff or a motif, that is potentially a problem if that's the song. It's a different thing for drums. Drums is more natural and just...
And I've written some drum pieces for ABRSM's new drum syllabus, which is being released now in April. And I'm happy to say that they, I think, put a lot of attention on this in that syllabus. And they have left as much room as possible for the student's own interpretation, for the student's own approach. So there's a lot of sections within the drum syllabus where it's not like you have to hit that. Oh, that wasn't a floor tom, that's a rack tom. Some of it, yes, of course. A lot of it is still notated, but they've definitely put a lot of attention into this to really try to inspire the students to put their own creative input and flair, and also the fact that we don't have to be so rigid like the drums, that this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's only a couple specific contexts where you're going to want sight reading that good, and it's like if you're in theatre, like that's the only real time you're going to want it that specific, and even then it depends on the MD. So
I would say so often all the sheets that I've seen in the West End, so much of it actually it's got stabs and specific figures and notes that you need to hit, but it's not the exact drum unless it's a sound that needs to be on stage. It's the same.
I mean that's I only say some depends on the MD, because I remember hearing a story from one of my tutors at ACM who was like, he was doing the Motown musical or whatever it was on the West End, and he played a 6-stroke roll instead of a 5-stroke roll, and he got picked up on it, kind of thing.
But
so
I guess that's like
it depends. It really depends.
That change is a different sound, isn't it? Rather than like, as in like that rhythm now is different. It's a different feel. It has a different. Whereas 2 drums, I mean, like on some kits, a high tom could be a mid tom on another kit. That's kind of arbitrary, isn't it? Someone's asked here as well, and I said I would definitely respond to this one. It's now gone off the screen, so give me a second. This is from Nishan? Yeah. So how do you remember song parts when practicing for like gigs? So when you've got lots of songs to learn.
Good question.
And this is actually, I'll tell you what, Nishan, I've gonna gig for the first time in 4 years, and I've got to learn loads of songs all of a sudden, and I need the answer to this question as well, please, guys. You guys are like, oh, he's gonna answer it. Yeah, what do I do?
I mean, I don't know if I have the best approach to it, but I can only speak from where I'm at, because of having played a lot, you get a feel for how long sections feel and how like 4, 8 bars, whatever feels, or how a chorus sounds, or this and then that, and you kind of start to pick up different signs from different instruments as well. So those kind of give you broad strokes, because you can listen to a verse and go, oh, that's 8, that's an 8, that's an 8, that's an 8, whatever it is, and you can get the structure down very quickly in some cases. So sometimes there's some weird stuff going on, like you've got random 2/4 bars and stuff like that, and that's stuff you'd want to note, but you need to get the broad strokes first, and then as you play the song more and more and practice it, you'll pick up the details that help you kind of flesh out the roadmap, if that makes sense. And also, if it's a song that's got 1 key groove, you're set, mate. Songs usually have 2, maybe 3 key grooves, usually.
Again, we're quite lucky as drummers in that regard.
Yeah, and also like if you can learn how to write your own charts, that's a big one.
I was just gonna say that I'm a very visual learner, so every time I need to learn a song, I have to write it out. But I write it out in the most simple way, where I always call my verses A and my choruses B, and then if it's a pre-chorus, I write pre. If it's an intro, I write I. That's just the system I come up with myself. So then I literally just write what section it is, how many bars that section is, and I do that. So I end up with a sheet that has the structure on it, and then I would just literally write down the key grooves that I need to know, like as little information as possible on that sheet. And if I can bring that sheet with me to the gig, brilliant. So a lot of the times I do have cheat sheets on the gig. It's not a professionally written piece of sheet music in any way, because that's actually far harder to read. It's like the key things that I need to know, so I can literally just glance over every now and then and know where I'm at. If I'm only allowed to bring a set list, and I'm not allowed to have a whole, like 1 sheet per song, then at least I'll try to write out the main groove just next to each song, just as a little reminder of being like, oh yeah, this is what the groove is for this song, if you know how to write out grooves, or however it works for you. If you somehow spell it out phonetically, like flats in Dagenham, like that's a rhythm, like some way that works for you to remember what that rhythm is.
We actually have, Nishan, if you're still there, if you email us, I put the email in the bottom of the chat to somebody else asking about drum kits. We actually have these templates out that have got and I use rehearsal marks, and it doesn't matter, just for me, a rehearsal mark is intro is section A, verse is section B, chorus is section C. If you're in a band where you're all learning it together and you all agree that A is this and B is that, and you can all be on the same page, that's really useful. But then we actually have these charts on Google Docs that you can then just fill in your own stuff, print it out, draw over the top of it if you want that. But it has the kind of structure there on a piece of paper. It keeps you in these kind of things rather than it being a very chaotic piece of paper. I found with a lot of students, they start to like write on different pieces of paper and it all gets everywhere.
It gets a mess, yeah.
So like this, at least at the beginning, at the top of the page, it basically tells you to put the BPM of the song in, because you need to know how to count it in, or if you're using the metronome, put that in. Often just put the key, so you can make the rest of the band think that you know everything about harmony and you're not just the drummer that hits things.
You can often Google what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you can we put the song name, the version of the song. This is something that sometimes happens. A lot of you might not have this, but if you're told to learn a song, then you turn up on the day and the version is different. Even with the same artist, has got a radio version compared to the album version, and sometimes they can be drastically different. There was one song that when I was just turned up to a gig, I'd learned one version, that they'd given me that version, and it turns out it was a different version, and I stopped in the middle of the last chorus. Right, I hit boom, and then they carried on, and obviously I quickly come back in on the next snare and was like adamant. I was like, oh, I've done this all wrong, and was like, oh my god, and it almost puts you off for the rest of it. But it turns out that they were playing a different version, and that's what the backing track was. They'd had the version from karaoke.com, which
and it's a very real life situation actually to not have had a rehearsal before you go on stage. With musicians to perform 3 times 45 minutes, which actually is crazy, but that's very often the case. So that's why it's important, that there's been a discussion that everybody knows, especially if you're playing along to backing tracks. Then there's no space for like, oh, now the singer went into the second verse. If everybody's playing live, then you usually just go wherever the singer goes. You sort of just go with them, and they kind of, even if it's not the right structure, you get through the song fine. But if there's pre-recorded music, you have to follow the structure of that pre-recorded music to the T, because otherwise things can go terribly wrong, and it's quite scary to do that actually.
Just one more note on charts. To me, obviously the main groove is important, the structure is important, but you can, if you're communicating with your band, figure it out as you go. The important things to me are tops and tails. So things that people remember are the beginnings and ends of songs, for sure. If you cock up the riff, if you're a guitarist, good luck redeeming that. Things like that. So I make notes of, so when we talk about having a set list and stuff, if I don't remember noting if you're the one counting it in, if it's a guitar riff, counting it in, if there's a specific fill, that kind of thing. And then if you know there's a fancy ending, if there's any stabs, I put the timing of that as well. So if you already know kind of the groove, you can blag the groove or whatever. Actually, those things to me are more important. By far.
And as well, like, just never let the guitarist count in a song.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Well, and it is in some ways scary also, because most of the time counting in the song is on the drummer, is the drummer's responsibility. And if you have a set list of 35 songs or however many to learn, you might have this has happened so many times to me. I'm about to start a song and I'm like, I completely black out.
How fast is this?
How does this song go? I don't know. I have no idea how to even count in this song. Is it super slow? Is it super fast? I don't know. So then there's like safety nets around that, where if you have the BPM written down,
minimum,
you can quickly have a metronome on your phone and actually go and have you can have it so it's just flashing, so you don't actually hear it, but you can just see it. And I have a metronome that is free. It's called Soundbrenner. That you can pay for it and attach a watch.
I've got the pulse actually.
That gives you a pulse. Really cool. But within that, you can actually create a set list. So if you know exactly which order the songs are going to be that you're playing, you can have a set list with all the BPMs already. So you just go to the next one, and then it just flashes to you. It's just an indicator. Also, if you're nervous on stage, your heart is pumping faster. Everything will feel like
slow.
You will probably count in faster than you think something is, and we'll play everything a little bit faster just because you're nervous.
I'm dreadful for that.
It's like being aware of that too, and then having the BPM reference is really good for you, visual reference to go, okay, actually 102 is this fast, because now it feels like it's way faster than that.
Did you say that the Soundbrenner Pulse app is free?
It's free for if you don't
Just
need
for the
to use
metronome.
any of this. I don't pay anything for it, and I'm using it for all of my metronome practices and to create the set list as well.
And for anyone that was in, the pulse is basically a thing that vibrates at a tempo, and you can put it around your wrist, you can put it around your waist, you can put it around your leg. It has all different like versions of things. You buy the one thing and then you can put that there. It has an app that it speaks to Bluetooth, or you can just use it standalone. It's actually really good for just counting in the first bit of the track, keeping in time with it, and you can just turn it off after that, and you've probably settled in the tempo. For practice, it's great because it's actually quite hard to stay in time with it just by itself, and so it really helps with that inner clock and building that like metronomic tempo yourself without a metronome, because you don't have the sound of it, and as soon as you go slightly out, you feel you're out of time with it, and so it's another way of practicing to a metronome that's a little bit different.
And I have one last thing I wanted to say about just this whole topic. And if you have an iPad, which a lot of people already have, that was actually a real game changer for me when I realized I could start using my iPad for all of my charts instead of printing out 35 pages. So that's actually what I'm doing most of the time, and it's a lot more subtle. There's a free program called Fourscore, a free app called Fourscore, which is brilliant for, it's made for basically music notation. So often if I do a gig and there is actually sheet music, then the MD sends out a file to everybody in the band, and they open it in their Fourscore app, and then you get all the music there, like distributed to the whole band like that. But you can also just have a blank page in there or manuscript paper, so you can actually go in and make all your notes in there, and I just find that easier than having everything printed out. And it's also easy if you need to go in and make changes. You don't have to scribble over stuff, and you don't lose these notes if you have a gig 6 months later where you're like, oh yeah, where's that notation that I made for that specific song, and you can't find it. So then it's all in that one app at all times.
For sure.
Yeah.
I never made the investment because I wasn't quite doing enough gigs to make it worth it. But when I was doing amateur theatre stuff, I would have killed for one.
It would be if you have an iPad anyways at home, then it's a free edition. But yes, you're right. I wouldn't necessarily get an iPad just for that.
No. I see them all the time on function gigs. It just is a no-brainer for so many people. Especially guitarists, or if you've got like actual melody lines that you've got to get right. Yeah. See, we can blag it, so it's
it's a very subtle way of just having anything you need written, like any reminders you need for yourself, just all day.
Sure. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
What have we got? Any other questions?
You know what? Something that comes up time and time again, and I've said to as a general answer, guys, I put the email again. I'll put it in the chat now for anyone that wants it. When asking about drum kits, the thing is, it's just good to have information before we give answers on that, because it depends what your setup is. It depends how much money you've got, and obviously, in an ideal world, everyone would have probably an acoustic kit in a soundproof room, but not everybody has that. So. And one of the big things I'd say when it comes to electronic drum kits is making sure that you really have one that there's a proper bass drum pedal, because we were talking about technique earlier. The amount of students I've had learn on a thing that is just like a little button that you press, they just got really bad technique, and it's very hard to undo that. Okay, if you email us, we will actually give you. We have some affiliate links with companies that we work with, but also sometimes they might not be appropriate. They might be appropriate depending on your budget and what level you're at and things like this as well, right? So I think if you send us an email, we're more than happy to give you a guide back and help you purchase your first drum kit or upgrade or whatever it is you want. Obviously, Emma's been playing on the new F-Note kits, which have a much more realistic feel than any other electric kit I've used, for sure, especially on the cymbals fronts. Emma's got, as you can see there, she's got the Roland kit in front of her. That's great, but that again is very expensive, so it's one of those that is if you don't have that budget, it's still making sure that you get something that is the best for you, but also hopefully not damaging your technique. That's a big thing with that. Without trying to stop people from playing, technique is the thing that you want to try and get right from the start, because it's just so much work to undo it, and it's very hard and it's very frustrating. And actually I've seen a lot of people quit because they just feel disheartened that they've got to redo everything, and that's quite a lot mentally to
first undo and then
exactly. First undo and then go all the way back and redo it all. So that's something definitely there. So yeah,
we've got another question about the syllabus that was mentioned earlier. Is it just performance grades? How does it work? Is it like Trinity kind of thing?
Oh, is he talking about the ABR?
Yes,
ABRSM. So it is very similar to Trinity or Rock School. ABRSM is actually the oldest grading body in the UK, but you can do the exams worldwide, and you can do them online. But they've never had a drum syllabus until now. So it is grade 1 to 8.
Awesome.
You know, interestingly, there's grade 1 to 8. We recently bumped into, me and Emma went to the music teacher expedition in London a couple of weeks back, and some companies are starting to do equivalent of grades 9 and 10.
Oh wow.
Because people are getting past
Makes
grade
sense.
8.
Makes sense.
They don't want to go and do a whole degree or diploma, but they kind of want to do that difficulty level, but in their own time and space. So there are options for that as well. Again, guys, if you have specific needs, send us a message and we'll happily say, like, someone's asking here about jazz, for example. That's going to be different. Maybe you would recommend to go do it with this examination board in comparison to rock, because maybe one's better than the other. So I wonder if you can answer this one, Vicky, because I'm guessing you've had to do obviously some jazz gigs, right? Someone's talking about how to transition from rock to jazz. They're now having to learn a bunch of standards, and it's a very different mindset that they're having to try and get themselves into.
Don't hit the kid so hard.
That's it. There we go. Simple answer. Just play quiet.
Yeah, it is very much a mind change. For sure.
Yeah, actually, I use different type of sticks, different tips specifically.
Okay, yes, good
so
point,
the Bickford Peter Erskine sticks are my favorite ones for jazz specifically, but I don't use them for anything else. Now, actually, it's years ago since I did a jazz gig, so I don't even know if they still have those sticks, but I would imagine they do. And then it's just almost like you were saying when you were doing your warm-up practice, and you get almost like into like a meditative state. With this, I would say put on one of those jazz standards that you have to learn and just put it on loop and really try to get inside of like feeling what that music is. What's the feel of that music, and then try to apply that to the drums, because it is a lot more subtle and sensitive. And I think that's the main thing. Like, you don't need to have all the jazz chops. You can get through a jazz gig with pretty basic jazz skills, basically just keeping time on the ride cymbal, keeping the hi-hat foot on 2 and 4, and then anything above that, depending on what type of jazz it is. Sometimes you literally just keep the bass drum on like you're feathering, you're softly hitting the bass drum on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you could play a little bit of the accents on the snare drum or on the toms. That's like that's sort of like the basics, but just thinking about taking the volume down, having a more subtle approach. But again, it depends on what type of jazz it is. If it's bebop, then we can definitely get way more like intense with it. But if it's standards, that's probably the right approach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible at jazz. I know it's not Emma's strength either, but Emma's got a new video in 2 days coming out on YouTube Shorts that's Jazz for Dummies. And that is just a quick little short that you can watch and rewatch that she's saying.
I was going to say,
talking about what Vicky's talking about there. Another really good explanation that I've heard, because it's very hard for us to kind of, without giving a lot of feedback backwards and forwards on this, to give general advice. But if you're jumping from rock, the best explanation I've had is rock, if you think about a mixing desk, which is where you would have like each thing was mic'd up separately. So you had a hi-hat mic that you could turn up and down, you had a snare drum mic and a kick drum mic, and let's say a ride mic, for example. With rock, you're going to have snare drum and kick drum super loud, right? And often the hi-hats are quite a lot quieter and the ride is quite a lot quieter. Jazz is like, now the ride is coming right up in volume, and the snare and the kick drum are coming right down, apart from accentuated things. And that's like a good analogy for that, I would say.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, it can be a lot of work because it's so easy to flip back into normal groove playing. It takes quite a bit of work, especially, so I'd suggest if you've got time to practice a lot before this gig, just getting a feel for those dynamic changes is massive. The other thing I was going to say was kind of just a hack for fast jazz, because I'm never had to use it, but if you need to use it, forget about what note is it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you forget basically about, I think, 2, is it? So you're playing that 2 and 4 just on the left foot. You don't go. Don't worry about that. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. It just means if you need to, in some case where you've been chucked in doing fast swing for some reason, get that down basically and get comfortable with that, just in case you need it. I've never needed it, but in case you need it, you got it. Also, it sounds fun.
And that hi-hat 2 and 4 is the Rock's snare drum 2 and 4.
That's what I was...
So that kind of also helps to just think about it like that. And actually what's helped me, I mean, I really can't play traditional grip at all. Traditional grip is basically the grip that they used to play until Ringo Starr played match grip on telly, and then everybody wanted to start playing match grip. But it's when you hold the stick like this. But actually that kind of helps, although I do it really poorly, but that means I'm never gonna whack the snare drum like I would whack it otherwise, because it's literally just there to give like little ghost notes and accents in between bits. So maybe experiment with that, because that might help you to get to getting that kind of jazz feel easier.
One thing that actually, just because Emma's got the kit, I keep forgetting that we did these sessions. So Emma, how's the drum kit? So we can ask her to play things and she can demonstrate perfectly with.
Oh yes, spot on first time, of course.
Emma, I was answering some replies, but did we talk about comping at all there?
Not really. No. We kind of touched on it.
Could you just give not too much, just one exercise to help somebody with comping with a standard? I was
actually talking about this yesterday to someone. If we're just imagining we're in the context where there's 4 to the floor, light feathered 4 to the floor, if you want to get that, play heel down, which is contrary to everything I've ever said on every video. But because you don't really want that. So I haven't done this in ages, but you want... I never play traditional grip, this feels really weird. But you play on the beat, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be the easy bit. And then you're going to play the offbeat 1. In the context of everything else, take it nice and slow. I actually use this offbeat all the time. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Just getting that dexterity in the hand down.
Not that that necessarily sound good in the song, is it, Emma? It's just trying to give you.
No.
Which is great, and it's actually because with jazz it's triplets, right?
Yes.
So there, in that context, you actually use the first and the third triplet of each beat. So there is one in the middle. So this is also a great way to start to develop the vocabulary for improvisation. So then it would be so there is a hit beat in between. So much like you were doing that bass drum exercise earlier, where you flipped, you moved it along 1/16th note at a time. You can also practice this, moving it along 1 triplet note at a time. Yeah.
Oh God. Keep going back to the and because I play it so much. I know what you mean. But just getting used to the ons and offbeats especially will help a lot. Because what do I... I'm only really messing around with ons and offs. Really.
And then I think also understanding the jazz structure and the language of jazz that is often been spoken on stage. So with jazz, a lot of the times you would have an A section and a B section, and the structure would usually be you play the A through once, sometimes it's 12 bars, sometimes it's 16, then you repeat that same thing again. Then you have a B section, which is a different type of section that is often maybe shorter, sometimes the same length, and then you go back to that A section again. And that's a whole round of a jazz standard. So often if you hear someone, if you're playing a jazz standard, you would play through that structure, A, B, A. You would play through that twice. That's called the head of the song. And then after that, you would start to go into solos where people start to solo. And that's where it's really easy to get lost because you're like, where the hell am I? So if you learn, again, internalize the song, learn the melody of the song. So then if you can sing the melody in your head whilst you're playing, then that way you won't get lost throughout the structure, even if people are playing solos around you.
Yeah, and also important keyword is also vamp, because that will come up quite a fair bit, either in musicals or in jazz, where it's just basically keep going until someone goes now, or it's like there's a solo that's finishing or whatever, because sometimes solos can be a bit more freeform as well. So it just kind of depends what's required in the song. Like often again, I keep harking back to theatre, but like you'll come to like a repeating section and then you just vamp on this vibe or this melody or this whatever until you're cued to do something else. So that's just a useful word to just have in your vocabulary.
Another very common word is trading. And trading basically means that you are having a conversation with one other instrument on stage with a set amount of bars that you can have decided beforehand, or just whoever starts the trade. If they play for 8 bars, then you know that, okay, now it's my turn and I'm going to be playing for 8 bars. Then you give it back to them. They play for 8 bars. You play for 8 bars. Sometimes you then go, you have that, and you go 4, I go 4, you go 4, I go 4. So it would often be either split into 8 or 4 or 2 numbers between, like how musicians are talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Got a couple of other questions here. One is a quick one, I've promised, and 2 different people have just asked this.
Okay.
I've been replying in the comments anyway. Yeah. What's your favourite groove, Emma? Play. So mine is a halftime shuffle. You guys always jam that. It's so stereotypical, and like in lockdown, I just got into it, and I just really like was doing.
I don't think there's a specific groove. I think it's more like just paradiddle, funky grooves. Like there's no specific. It's more freeform.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. You like your paradiddle grooves. Yeah. Cool. You wanna play us some?
What do I know? That kind of shebang, usually.
Nice,
very
nice.
Who's that? That's kind of David Garibaldi / Steve Gadd. Yeah, vibes.
Yeah, I like that stuff as well. You know what's that? It's so hard to play well, though. You know,
I still rush. I still rush.
And it's like you get one groove down and you change one element of that.
But also, kind of contrary to that, a good 4 to the floor in a live situation, the power of a 4 to the floor, I will never get over that. Like the effect it has on people.
That's a really good point, Emma.
Like, my favourite. Okay. I'm having that one. That one. What about you?
Vicky?
It's a tricky question. I do love I come from growing up with like Swedish pop music, so pop is always just gonna be in my system. I love to play really simple grooves, but try to make them really groovy, because there is a real challenge in that. You have a good video on that about the Billie Jean groove, right?
Yes, yeah.
If you haven't watched it.
Nice plug, thank you very much.
I was playing in a Brazilian band when I was in uni and when I came out of uni, and I do love playing bossa nova and Brazilian rhythms.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
You know, I find I've never managed to be good at those, and I think that's probably why I don't know. I enjoy it if I could be better at it.
There's a void in my knowledge about different cultures, music, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, that's something. I feel like we should do a series on, you know, like you've gone around and you're doing the Beats and Wheels and you're talking to people. It'd be really fun to like go around and do a series where we'd all go and actually learn from people doing specific
I'd love that.
I've started doing that just for myself because I travel a lot.
I know, I was thinking, but you could actually be really cool to document it, right? And like, and actually, because one of the things I think a lot of people I've seen in the comments, so a lot what you get, Emma, is people sometimes think that you can do like everything because the stuff that you present is like obviously good and that's cool. And you have your specialties, but actually all of us have our strengths, and there's a whole bunch of things that we're not trying. And it almost feels like sometimes for me, like if I go to play jazz, it feels like I don't even play drums. I feel like I'm a complete beginner, and I don't think people realise that because what we put out online is us playing the stuff we're really confident with. So people think that, right, of when they associate with you. And actually there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're happy to kind of make a fool of yourself.
Oh man, I will never forget the video when I talked about how to do a one drop, the amount of flack I got for that. Oh my god. And I was like, I don't have time to explain the ins and outs of why this is just a simple one drop. It's just a mess. They're like, this isn't reggae.
We all know how hard it is to learn another language, right? This is the same thing. Although we're speaking drums, we still need to learn drums in all these different languages. And especially when it comes to feel for certain rhythms. It's literally in the culture. I think it's amazing with all of my Brazilian friends who are not musicians at all. They all have this groove in the way they walk and talk. And if you see Brazilians play football, you know, there's a special groove in the way they communicate with each other. That's just innate in their culture. So then to actually be able to learn that feel from someone that comes from a completely different culture is quite challenging. And that same thing applies to like so many different rhythms around the world. Because at the end of the day, music is all rhythm. No matter if you play that on a melodic instrument, it's all a rhythm that you're playing.
Yeah, everything is. That is the foundation of. You talk about it in your masterclass with the heartbeat, and like it all starts with that. We actually live through rhythm.
We are rhythmic beings.
That's the first rhythm we all hear. Yeah, the heartbeat in our minds.
For sure. What was I going to say? There was a good point I was going to make. And I've already. Oh yeah, it's hard to in my videos and stuff like that articulate the subtlety of feel because it's micro fractions of. Because we always to simplify it for people, you have to go quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, fit it in a grid, and then you do your thing.
Right
so you kind of erase, like by simplifying it, you erase this whole other element of it. I'm very good with the mechanical side of it, but being able to go, just feel it, man. What? You know, some people really struggle with that. So it's something I've struggled to articulate in the videos for sure.
Yeah, it's very hard because it's like you only get that by just, as Vicky said, by being in the culture. Like I went to Brazil in I think it's 2015, 2016, and we went and saw the Street Samba, and I was with a professional drummer who is a much more accomplished drummer than me that can sight read like a West End show off the bat.
Yeah.
He used to teach a samba school on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
Went there and he's like, I don't even know what's going on. And we were filming it on his GoPro and we're trying to figure it out afterwards. He's like, and these guys are, and then there's a car coming, and then their friend is like moving the drum, and it's like upside down, and the guy is just still playing, having a chat while smoking a cigarette, and it's coming, and you're just like, how is this? And it's still going. They didn't lose any feel or groove of everyone playing. You're just like, it's in them. Like for us, if that was a gig and someone started moving your floor tom out of the way, and you're like, no, and he's like, oh, that's part of it, and it was like as if it was nothing, and that's a culture thing, right? And it's just in their blood. One of the teachers that we had when we studied together at university, you had Bosco, didn't you? He talked about they actually, because he came from Brazil, came over to the UK I think in his 30s, and then brought a lot of those patterns into some popular music. And he then actually, when they started putting it into a computer at some point, they actually did an algorithm to break down what the percent of fill was.
Yeah, because it's like, is it triplet? Is it straight? Because it's neither. So you can't really transcribe this accurately.
They put it into like an algorithm of like the average over all these things and what it came up with, and then like I think I was right in saying like that, it was like if 33% was, I'm not saying this is, but like 33% swing is the normal swing, it was like 37.7 or something. But then when
it depended on which beat,
but
which part of the bar.
Then when you heard that, he's like, no, that doesn't sound right. So the album's trying to come up with like a solution. He's like, no, because it depends on what beat, what thing, how it's going. And so an average, it was an intangible thing, was the conclusion, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, it was...
and one thing that is still the biggest like head of like hardest for me when I'm trying to learn rhythms from different cultures is that it's so ingrained in me to like count 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything I'm learning around that. So it's like, but where's the one? If I know where the one is, I can work out everything else around it. They don't think about it that way at all. Like they have a clave, they have a 3-2 or 2-3 clave, or whatever, depending on which culture and which rhythm. But they just never put the emphasis on one. So even when you're trying to ask them where is the one, they don't know where it is. It's irrelevant, and it doesn't make sense to them to like split it into that, because you're trying to create a beat that doesn't really exist in their culture.
Yeah. Another one that I found interesting on that as well was different time signatures in some countries. And they don't even really have a time signature. So I want to say it was like, is it like Hungarian folk music or something? I had a student that just when he came, and he was actually a guitar student at the music school. I didn't teach him much personally, but he was talking about like how rigid we are with the 4/4.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, when they try and score out some of the stuff that he learned as a kid, it would be like all these crazy time signatures that you did a video on recently, in theory, but like every bar is like its own thing, and they see it just as this little loop is what that is, and then this is next one.
Yeah,
and
they're their own sections.
Then it's just like, and we're trying to quantify it all.
Well, it's like the Indian like raga stuff, where it's like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Sound that way, and then they just sing.
It's more like poetry, right? There's just a rhythm to it, but there's no timing, there's no rigid structure. It's just kind of free flowing. I think I'm going to have to head off, sadly, so we're going to have to wrap.
Oh, that's fine, Emma. Thank you for doing that. I thought that was...
It's all right. That was good.
To jump on together whilst we...
It was good. For
sure. Thank you for joining in, guys. Obviously, leave comments afterwards on there what we wanted to talk about in the following weeks. We're going to try and get on regularly. We're sorry for the time for a lot of people. It seems everyone's in Australia that's here at the moment.
Right?
So we will try and do different times. It's just difficult. These guys do lots of gigs, and so evening times is a bit isn't
sketch.
So we're trying to be consistent for you, but we will try and jump on other times for people if you're watching this afterwards. But thank you for joining in.
And loads of great questions. And thank you for having me, Emma.
That's all right. Lovely to see you again. All right, I will see you guys soon. All right.